You are looking live. Listening? You are listening or looking live to night 4 of the Deep End Invitational. Mike Schopp, Evan Krautwurst, 48-team tournament, the best of the best. 3 drafts in the books. Here comes the 4th. This is going to be wild. If only there were sharks to come and eat my face.
I love it. I love the Sharks.
Not bad.
I'm going to do that all throughout the night is what I'm going to do. Someone's babbling on about something I don't like. Sharks are coming in.
I'll take David Montgomery in around.
Sharks.
Come on. Right there was an opportunity.
That's right.
All right, let's see the board. Night 4.
Oh, yeah.
Of the Deep End Invitational, affectionately known as the DEI.
Yes.
We have had 3 great drafts. You participated last night. I did on Monday night. And so many great players in here. Last night, quickly, Adam, I mean, you were in it and you loved your team, and I liked it too. I thought last night was just a clinic in how to draft from every position, adjusting for what's happening around you. Like, it was an expert league, to say the least. And it was really a great show.
Yeah, I felt good. And, I strategized a lot of the day about like what I was going to do. I looked at the previous 2 nights drafts, which was nice to be able to reference, and Superflex and kind of tier-based drafting. I've always done tier-based drafting, so this kind of helps. And I'm also very familiar with the FFPC like draft room too, where like I can quickly go to each position and I kind of already have the tiers like built into my mind. So it sounds like corny or easy, but it's really not. When you only have 60 seconds and you're podcasting, like it's hard to be able to kind of go to that, know who's in my tiers and draft from that. And, for example, we're podcasting, I go click on my pick. I'm thinking Adams and I look and Eckler's there. I'm like, what the heck is Eckler doing here? Like, okay, I'll take Austin Eckler. So you just, like Billy Musio says, you got to be like water. You got to flow. And I thought it went really well for me.
So let's meet tonight's players. The draft is, as usual, once we start, it starts at 8 o'clock Eastern every night. So it's underway. At pick 1, Pat Thorman. Established the run, New England's finest. Adam, if Pat is not New England's finest, what is? I say those amazing whale watch boat rides, Boston Harbor, but you may have a different answer.
Quincy Market is great in New England over there. I also like David Ortiz. Is he from New England?
He's not from New England, but he hung out there for a decade and a half.
For a spell.
Our friend Stacy Perez at the 102, 4th and frames, up and comer. We talked to Stacy about a month and a half ago on the Deep End, and I'm still sort of feeling guilty about having to leave the expo before her panel show was up. So hopefully she forgives us. 103, Mike Leone, 2 hats, 1 mic, no bucks given. I mean, sorry for swearing. This is the Deep End. One of my greatest joys in being wrapped up in fantasy football is knowing Mike, who was just over the river in Tonawanda this whole time. And it's so cool that you and I were in a Dynasty league with Mike, and we just love him. And he'll be on.
The river? Can I ask that question? What's the river? Is it the Tonawanda River?
It's the Niagara River.
Oh, yeah.
Actually.
Sorry.
Todd Burrows at the 104. Todd from PA, high volume player. When you want to know what's right in best ball, you want to know what Todd is thinking and doing. And he's on Twitter very actively. So a resource and a big winner at the same time. 105, Mike Beers, RotoViz contributor. Adam and I have competed against Mike many times. And, he absolutely belongs in this room, taking Travis Kelce, by the way, at 105, breaking the early quarterback run. Kate Magziuk, managing editor of BT Steel Curtain. We met at the Expo in 2022, I think it was, or 2021 with Michelle and Dusty Dog, Adam. But Kate, we're so glad to have her. She belongs in this room too. And, good luck to Kate tonight. 107, Bradley Stalder, Best Bell Fantasy, Roto Underworld, a Packers fan living in Detroit. That must be tough. No, what would be tough is living as a Lions fan in Green Bay.
Right. Yeah, that would be brutal. Although this year, The chickens come home to roost. The roosters come home to, I don't know.
No, you had it. What?
Okay.
What
That's
about the
it.
chickens?
That's
Sharks?
it. Aren't the Lions the chickens? They're coming home to roost and they're going to beat the Packers. I don't know. No.
108, Abib Agbetoba, the good doctor of fantasy football, the two-time defending FBG champion at FFPC, which was cool before the Go Bills came along and won the main event twice in a row. We love Abib. He's been on our show before and have a lot of respect for him. 109, Glenn Carrant, DNA Profiler on Twitter. I don't know a lot about Glenn, but what I did read, I'm a little bit afraid of.
Snake.
FFW Street. I'm very excited to see what Glenn pulls off.
He also has come in. He's finished 2nd through 10th in main events across all platforms. He's still looking for that number 1 overall finish.
Wow.
I know. Impressive.
Is that like me being in the time zones where I was like 6 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour behind, 1 hour behind, and then 1 hour ahead, 1 hour and a half ahead?
Who knows?
Maybe not the same thing. John Daigle. I know a lot about John, including what his drinks taste like.
Ooh.
When I mistakenly poured his drink into my cup at the expo in Canton. Big fan of John. We've got an announcement to make about what's going to happen in Vegas. He'll be in Vegas, and everybody knows John, 4 for 4, and not Jay Daigle on Twitter. Biplab Mondell, vaunted high-stakes player. Bip is omnipresent, expecting to duel for the 3rd straight year with I'm expecting to duel for the third straight year with Sir Bip at the Bare Knuckle, which is, by the way, 2 weeks from tonight in Las Vegas after the season opener, Detroit at Kansas City. And then finally at the 1012, I've gone way too long. Goat District, JD and Dame Williamson. Oh my. Toronto's World Traveler paired with Mr. Sick'em Bears, Dan Williamson, a Studley team at the turn every night. Adam, in this tournament, the 112 has been just like a beast.
Yeah, no, that's tough. But these guys are drafting all year. They know what they're doing. Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey. Stacy forgives you for missing her.
We had to leave
the panel. I know. She said I forget. She
I wasn't even driving.
That's. Oh no! Don't put the blame on me. But yeah, no, great. I mean, nothing out of the ordinary tonight. Oh, never mind. I lied. John Daigle, Mark Andrews at the 110.
Yes,
it's something that you and I would do. It's something you and I would do, Michael.
I picked Andrews at 207, and for 2 nights I have not slept because I guess I must be wrong about Mark Andrews. I know I'm not. Like, I'm listening to all the podcasts, and everybody thinks to the moon for Mark Andrews, but there he is, 110. This format, Adam, you wrote it. It's fine to draft any build, and we saw last night, especially on the Wednesday draft, an example of Scott Connor with his start, and Jack Colsheen with his. You could do anything in this. It's almost like if we did a mock draft in this format, but we had to care about it. You would see the running back guy, the receiver, man or woman, the receiver, the quarterback, the tight end. You could do almost anything here.
Yeah, and tonight, I don't think we are officially not going to get a 3 quarterback start. Leone was the only guy who could have done that.
The tricycle, by the way?
The tricycle. That's right. The tricycle. But
Who invents these terms?
I don't know. Listen, there's all sorts of terms. But I want to hear more about Devontae Adams from our guy, Mike Leone, because I took Devontae Adams in the 3rd round last night.
Who needs to hear more about Devontae Adams from Mike Leone? Haven't we heard it all for years already?
I know all about it.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing every year from Devontae Adams. No one, very few receivers earn targets at a higher rate than he is. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It's, don't overthink it.
He's great. Next question.
That's right. Next question. Is George Pickens earning targets, Michael?
Wait, already?
I don't know. I think Pickens is a little bit over. I haven't drafted a lot of Pickens.
I haven't drafted a lot either, but there's still time. There's still time.
He had like an okay rookie year. His targets per out run weren't great. I get the part of that was just the route tree that he was running last year didn't really lend itself towards earning targets, but I don't know how much of that's going to change this year. And there's just a lot of young, fun players in that range that I prefer over him. So it's not so much a knock against him as it is there's just other guys I like more.
Maybe the question about, in terms of Pickens is right now, Mike, like, what are you doing with all these games this year? I think it's going to be most teams are playing their guys this week. You're seeing Pickett and Pickens already tonight. Josh Allen is going to play this week. Deshaun Watson is going to play this week. And then there's the long break before the opener. Is anything for you different about like the end of the preseason than in previous years? Because in previous years, especially when there were 4 games, you would not see anybody drafted, in the top half of any draft at least, playing in the end of the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different because we get the information a little bit later on in the offseason, to your point, about like who's actually getting some of these snaps with the first team, and we get a better indication of the depth chart. So it doesn't really change anything up top for me as far as what the guys do, but it's more like the middle end of the draft where we just get some more clarity on roles and stuff. Like, we saw Chigakonkwo with the first team for Tennessee playing in 11 personnel. Little stuff like that, I think, matters, makes you either feel a little bit better, a little bit worse about a guy.
Right. Yes.
I was going to ask him about his start here being the only guy to go 2 quarterbacks. Was that the plan, or was that just how it fell to you?
Kind of how it fell. I actually thought it might be a little quarterback heavier than it has been. I know Overset told me his draft the other night was like really quarterback heavy. So if 2-0 hadn't been there, I think I probably would have gone 2 skill players and not quarterback, but I was hoping to maybe force some of these other teams to chase quarterback a little more. It doesn't quite seem like that's happened, though. I might hear in the 4th and maybe push me some better skill players now.
Can I just please point out that the 101 on Tuesday night just went to the 401 in this draft? And has that ever happened in the history of fantasy football?
Wait. The 101? Richardson went 101?
Yeah.
On Tuesday, Anthony Richardson went 101.
Was that Louis?
No.
Cody
That's
Carpentier.
Funny. Cody Carpentier, 101. He went Seslowski, I want to say on Monday at 206. And then last night later in 2.
Yeah, 208.
Adam, tonight, he goes through the 3rd round. All these guys passed on Anthony Richardson. Amazing difference.
Yeah, and the thing is, he's still he didn't go like crazy low as far as QBs go. He went QB 14, which is fine. And Richardson, I will say, I would have taken Richardson at the 2-3 turn last night, but you don't really have to. The great thing about Richardson is he's a smash. If he smashes, he's good for those big tournaments. This is this isn't a very big tournament. Winning your league is obviously the only thing you can get money for and the overall. But you don't need to do that in this type of tournament. But for him to last that long is pretty wild.
Oh, wow, right?
Yeah, if I went 3rd QB, that's who I would have taken there. But I decided
for the upside, yeah.
With such good quarterbacks, the first 2, I feel like you're kind of not optimizing those picks if you take a 3rd, even with it being best ball. I don't know if you're optimizing those picks if you take a 3rd QB that early.
I agree. Mike, what is your singular sort of bet on Richardson this year? Are you pro or con? Outside of the portfolio stuff, are you sort of in on him?
I'm so indifferent, which is boring, but I feel like there's a lot of people who are either he's going to run, he's going to be good at fantasy no matter what because of his legs, and then there's another camp that's he just sucks, so it doesn't matter that he runs. And I'm sort of in between where you see the high end upside of these guys who can run a ton, but I think there is a chance that he's just bad and that doesn't matter. So I take him a lot, as right around where he goes at ADP. If I don't have stacks worked out or something and I just want some upside, I'll take Richardson. Did a main event last night and, had him sort of in the plans, ended up going Deshaun Watson because he slipped a bunch, but had he not, would have gladly waited one more turn and taken Richardson and bet on him. So kind of just depends how the team shakes out. And he's pretty variant in the draft rooms. Ooh, Todd snipes me there on Hawkinson.
Yeah, it was about Richardson too. It's if he plays, if he gets 100 carries, it's going to be impossible for him not to finish in like the top 10 as a fantasy quarterback. So it's the question is, do you think he's going to be so bad he's not even going to play like 12 games, or does he get hurt?
He's got to play, right? That's the one thing on it. Like,
right.
I mean, why would you start him? You're making the decision to start him for the year. You know what you're getting yourself into. Like I don't think there's any way he gets benched for play unless it's like, a bottom 5% outcome, which like he was not helping in fantasy in that case anyways.
Does not having JT there, if JT doesn't play there, let me put it that way, does that hurt him, you think?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you take a pretty elite skill player off the field, I think it hurts you. Even if you think running backs are a little overvalued, I mean, Jonathan Taylor is one of the best running backs in the league. So I think that would absolutely hurt you.
Yeah, for sure.
He is one of the best in the league, but through 4 rounds, he has not been picked. So Josh Jacobs goes at 412. I'm not telling any secrets.
Right.
All right. You can all see this board. Maybe Kate isn't here. I'm not sure if she's here because it's all asterisks on her team, unfortunately. But there goes Taylor at 501 to Pat Thorman. So there goes that. Mike is coming up on the clock at 503. Welcome to the Deep End Invitational. Mike Schopp, Adam Krautwurst. It's been an honor to be hosting this tournament, these shows all week. Before we get back to our draft here in the 5th round, in the final night of the Invitational, let's take a moment to take a word from our sponsor.
Hey, people always ask me, what's the World Series of Fantasy? What's the Super Bowl of Fantasy? And it's easy. It's the FFPC. Their signature Players Championship has a $6 million prize pool, and their best ball leagues start in February. And they're the answer to so many questions. Hey, what's the best place to get a Dynasty Orphan? Well, you can adopt a Dynasty Orphan at the FFPC right now. There's more orphans at the FFPC than anywhere else on the internet. That's why we partner with them. So if you want to play fantasy football for low, medium, high stakes, you love Dynasty, you love best ball, you love seasonal leagues, all types of fantasy footballers need to go to the FFPC. And remember, use promo code Underworld. Promo code Underworld gets you $25 off your first team. Promo code Underworld, $25 off your first team, no matter what the format is, at the FFPC. Go get it.
Welcome back.
Sir. Welcome
Mike,
back.
Important question. How was Italy?
Italy was amazing. It was my first trip to Europe, and it couldn't have gone any better. The travel was smooth. It's great hanging out with my family for like 10 days, and it was a good combination of like really busy while we were in Rome doing a bunch of tours and stuff, and then going to Tuscany and relaxing a little bit more, sipping on some wine. So it went awesome.
So here you are back from Italy, back in Tonawanda. You're getting back into the podcast streams. You bring on Hayden Winks, and like the first question you ask him, like, "Oh, here we go. We're having a conversation. I've been in Italy." He's like, "So was I." Was that sort of like was that a pie in your face with the trip?
No, I felt more like that. I feel like I should have known he was in Italy. That was more. I was like, oh man, I probably should have known that.
But he was like, "Oh, I was there. I was just there last week, actually, myself." And it was a little bit sort of a, I don't know. I would have been pissed. I just went to Alaska in July. If I come on the Deep End the next day and I'm like, "Oh, I'm back from Alaska," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't see you there. I was just there myself." I would have fired at him. I would have been unwilling to talk to him ever again.
Now Vegas. And now Vegas in 2 weeks, right? Right, Leone?
No,
I won't be in Vegas this year.
You couldn't be
I'm just like
Vegas the same.
Just this year I probably couldn't have made it work anyways. I've said, but just really busy with a lot of stuff for ETR. But I still wish that live week was like the week before instead of the week of the season. It's just so hectic the week of the season.
Yeah.
Almost through 5 rounds here in night 4 of the Deep End Invitational. Mike Leone with us. He starts Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, Devontae Adams at 304, DK Metcalf. No JSN to start the season. I drafted Metcalf for the first time tonight, feeling like he was a little bit of a value for the first time because it has never felt like that. And then Breece Hall at 503, early in this tournament for Brees, but the whole summer has been about when to draft him. It was early third, even late second, Mike, for a while in the summer, and then Dalvin Cook happened. But here's Hall back at practice before Cook. I don't know. You've heard the discourse all summer. What's the bottom line on him?
Yeah, I think ultimately he's just too talented. And, as you said, that he's back at practice before Cook. And that shoulder injury for Cook, as odd as it might seem, might be more impactful in a negative way than Brees coming back from his injury. It sounds like it's an injury. I know talking to Pat Kerrane that he thinks could definitely pop up again. And it's a bad sign that it's still an issue for him. And first half of the season, I don't expect him to be that great, but I expect him to be good enough. And then just really having top 5 running back upside the second half of the year when they get back from their bye week. There's just not many players that can do what he did last year in a limited sample. So I want to be in on that for sure. And in an Aaron Rodgers offense, I think, I don't expect the Jets to be great, but I think the offense is somewhat insulated from a floor perspective with the shift at quarterback there.
Yeah. Do you Metcalf here? I know Silva's a big Metcalf guy. He's probably even higher now after the JSN news. Where were you on Metcalf before, and where are you now? Obviously, you drafted.
Yeah, I was not as high as Silva, but I do think when you get into that range where Jerry Jeudy's not going there now because he just got hurt, but Jeudy and Amari Cooper, I feel like some of those guys, Keenan Allen, those are tougher bets for me to make as far up as they get pushed. And Metcalf, I think projection wise is similar to those guys, but then just has sort of this extra gear where, there's just not many wide receivers built like him. He's in the prime of his career. And I just feel a little bit better about there being some more juice on the ceiling with Metcalf, I guess, and some of those other guys he goes around. But I do think he's definitely first of that tier and not really in the tier that goes at the 2-3 turn with Waddle, Olave, Devonta, and T. Higgins.
Good of you, Mike, to take a question about Evan so soon.
So you're not capitulating. I see.
I mean, what a night. Oh, wow. It's just, sorry. Wow.
It was entertaining. We have our entertainment for sure. ETN almost. I didn't want to go running back, but if ETN had lasted, I would have.
She is auto picking, and I think if she's not there, you're playing against that. In all the underdraft, both you guys, the underdog drafts you do, you see the teams that are not really there. Davis and Maddock and I are doing a couple of best ball tournament drafts, and in one, the teams on either side of us were auto drafting, and it can affect your strategy because you find out a couple rounds, you're not sure. Maybe they made a queue, but if they didn't, they're picking at the top of the list, and you can use that to your advantage, Mike.
Yeah. Well, because if you're just trying to decide who's going to come back to you, sometimes literally a player has a 0% chance if they're at the top of the queue. So it's definitely, and then even positionally, you pretty much can tell where they're going to go.
Listen, Levitan's going to be happy about this because this is the one draft where if you don't show up, you're in big trouble because you're not going to get any quarterbacks in Superflex. They're never going to be at the top of the queue. But if Kate wins, then we have to shut the whole tournament down now, right? We just if she doesn't show up, doesn't draft a quarterback.
It does happen.
Yeah, you're right. It does. Be interesting. I mean, what a draft. Eckler, Chubb.
There are so many tournaments now that maybe this is the year where an auto draft team wins.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's happened before. I mean, it probably has. We saw last night, Adam, right? Was it Cole Sheen that went long before their first quarterback?
Which is okay, if that's your plan, because you're going to eventually take one. But if I don't even know this, if the queue doesn't have a quarterback at the top, I don't know if she'll ever get a quarterback. So who knows? We'll see.
I probably should have taken Goddard first at this turn. I'm kind of kicking myself over that one. I think that was a mistake.
Tilting here.
Yeah.
Do you so in FFPC, Leone, you see are you talking about looking for that value in getting one of those top tight ends?
I generally like to, just because it's hard to manufacture that target upside at tight end. In a half PPR, guys could get there on fluky efficiency and touchdowns later. but it's a little bit harder to just the guys that go late generally just don't earn enough targets to compete with the top guys, and Goddard's sort of like the last guy there.
Yeah.
Make your pick here. I will say, I don't think you're in big trouble there for not doing that. Look at Waller at 312, by the way, compared to Goddard at 612. I mean,
yeah, the Goddard value is so much better for sure.
It's so much better. This summer has been about sort of the realization that the tight end value exists late. And so you're on close enough to the end, or I think you can take advantage of that. So I wouldn't beat myself up over not getting him.
Yeah, it worked out okay. I do think I would have taken him. I don't know, him versus Godwin. I don't know. That's close. It's a close one. But you do have to start 3 wide receivers too, in addition to being able to start them in the flex. Like the need to start 3 affects the scarcity in like a pretty meaningful way compared to like an FFPC main event where it's the same starters as running back.
One more, Mike, before you go, because this is the deep end. Allen and Tua meet in week 18.
Oh.
So only one meaningful matchup between them sort of cancels out a divisional advantage. I'll hang up.
It does. I'll be honest. I didn't think about the correlation between the two when I drafted them. It would have been nicer if they played twice, for sure.
That's what I was.
I also I did hem and haw a little bit about Devontae Adams versus Jalen Waddle for the stacking purposes, but I had a pretty meaningful gap in my ranks between Adams and Waddle that I went with Adams. I know some other people have it closer, in which case I would have taken the correlation, but I decided just to go with a player I liked a bit more.
You can't resist Adams. How did the randomizer treat you?
Good. I tried to call you, Mike, for one of my prompts, but I bet you were.
That was what that was?
That's what it was. That's what it was.
I have had my car in at the service department since like 2 days ago, and the guy's calling me, and I don't recognize the number. So my phone is muted,
Yeah.
Today I finally pick up the phone. Oh, you've been calling me? Oh, my car is okay. That's good. So I definitely wish I had picked up. I'm sorry.
Well, if you want to feel worse about it, I had to call Louis instead.
Oh,
so.
God. Normally it's Louis to his car. You know what I mean?
What was the question?
I think it was like, who's the best Bills value to take late, and then like take that player. If not,
Hardy.
take somebody bad. That's what Louis said. He said Hardy as well. Although the way the randomizer draft went, we already actually had Hardy on the roster, so we ended up taking Shakir because we timed out, and then Louis said anybody but Shakir, basically.
Well, you couldn't have done 20 push-ups in the 30 seconds, and that's why you got stuck with Deontay Hardy or
I refused to tweet negatively about Dalton Kincaid, so I took the Hardy punishment instead.
What other randomizer answer question was Deontay Hardy the answer to?
I had to tweet something about how rookie tight ends will stink and like Dalton Kincaid isn't a good pick. And I was afraid of Bills Mafia Twitter not really getting the bit there. So I took the punishment was to just draft Deontay Hardy.
I can help you on that front. Latavius Murray is maybe the next best answer there. Latavius Murray. I mean,
I've taken him in a couple of drafts recently.
Yeah. What about here? If you had called me right now, and I'm trying to sort of make a splash, you know who I'm saying? Come on, his name has not been mentioned by anybody ever. But if you're in sort of the Bills zone, you know who I'm going to say.
I do.
Was it like Sherfield or something? I don't know.
Former Arizona Cardinal.
Oh, so that's who I said. Louis told me he thinks he's going to get cut, but that's who I asked him about. Isabella.
So Sal Capaccio has been sort of leaning that way too, because he's a long shot. He's not their draft pick, but he was a second round pick, and he's still young. And Shakir was a 5th, and who cares? So yeah, Isabella, McDermott apparently loves his speed.
Sure.
And I don't know, I wish I had picked up and said Isabella.
You guys are Dynasty guys. I was lamenting how I still to this day, my most shameful there's a lot of shameful moments as a fantasy analyst out there. And as with Josh Allen being drafted is probably number one in my takes to that. But the year that DK Metcalf and AJ Brown were rookies, I drafted Andy Isabella and JJ Arcega-Whiteside in like all my rookie drafts. And then it's like literally like you just look at pictures of the players compared to one another, and it's like you took Andy Isabella over, DK Metcalf and AJ Brown.
Because of the cone drill.
Yeah, something Davis Maddox got me out. I'm just gonna blame him for it.
Thank you, Mike. Good luck.
But yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate you putting together this tournament. It's always a fun draft.
Of course. Thanks so much, buddy.
Thank you.
Love it. Love it.
Isabella.
Isabella, the deep end tonight.
Is he live?
Isabella?
No, nobody that I've seen has ever drafted him this year in anything.
Listen, he might be the first waiver ad of the year. You know what I mean?
Well, yes, he'll be everybody's
Well,
ad at that point. Let's see, a Mike Leone, a Stacy Perez, your Abibs,
yep.
your Bradley Stalters tonight, your auto pick Kate's team.
I know.
Somebody, well, she's gonna pick auto pick's not picking Isabella, but
No, look at that deep.
you could, I think. Like he's gonna Nyheim Hines went down.
Yeah.
They don't like Shakir.
They should.
There is a little bit of room there.
I mean, I took Hardy last night in the second to last round. You could all, you probably don't have in a 20-round draft like this. There's not room for Andy Isabella unless you're going to take him instead of Hardy. But I think right now the guy's Hardy. But guys like Isabella, I know we're itching to make that sexy pick, whatever. In this, you can't do it because it's best ball. But like in your drafts, like guys like Isabella, guys like Sean Tucker. I'm just going to say names. We're on the final night. I'm going to Kentucky tomorrow. We're just going to throw some names out there. Guys like that, even if you don't want to draft them, you can just have them on your mind so that when the first waiver run comes, somebody gets hurt. Those are the guys that you can attack before everybody else gets to them.
26 by my count quarterbacks go through round 7. We tweeted today sort of how many have been going through pick 74. It was an arbitrary cutoff, the second pick of round 7. And on Monday and Wednesday, most of the starting quarterbacks in the league have been picked. On Tuesday, it was barely more than half. And so that was interesting. Tonight, again, closer to the full amount. But still, you have teams that, well, everybody has 2, right? Except for Pat, who's coming up here on the 8-9 turn. Everybody else has 2.
Yeah, Pat might be okay. I mean, if he could double tap here and get, 27, 28, and I think he'd be hero QB. It's hard here, though, because you're in that range of the draft where, like, you're looking at guys like, Javonte Williams, who's gone. That's why I mentioned his name. But, like, McMahon, do I take the 28th best quarterback or do I take David Montgomery or Javonte Williams or something like that? And there's some good receivers still there, obviously. So it's tough. It's tough.
He's up now. I'll just say I think Garoppolo should be one of his picks. But he could do what I did and just sort of push it. And then I got stuck doing that. Team 6, Kate is not in the room, apparently. Yeah. I would pick Garoppolo right here. Marquise Brown at 8-12. Wait a minute.
There you go. Garoppolo and Brown.
Yeah, that works. So now I feel like Pat can feel like he's sort of all set for the night. The rest is all skill and opinion based, but he's not going to get beat. As long as Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs both don't sit out the entire season, then he's got a problem.
Thank God for the free roll. Should we bring the doc in to see what he thinks?
Please.
Oh, I love it. There he is.
Oh, Abib.
What's going on, guys?
What's up, bro?
The last 2 times I talked to you, one was in Vegas. The other time I was outside on the deck out here where bugs were eating my head. So this is already better than that, at least, if not the other time.
Yeah, I feel like we've been battling all off season. So even though we haven't had direct communications, we've been communicating.
That's right. So
what do you think so far?
Yeah, Team 8, how you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of anticipated to start. I was happy that Joe Burrow fell to me. I think I'm higher on, than most on Joe Burrow. I think earlier in the offseason he was more lumped in. I want to say he was probably either right with Lamar or above Lamar early in the offseason. Then he had the injury, and his ADP's just dropped. But there's been nothing but good news. There's been nothing but positive reports as far as his health status and his availability for week 1. So in my mind, I don't understand why his ADP really hasn't moved up. He's definitely been like one of my favorite late targets. I didn't have much of him early on, so
You are up
I've
next.
just been loving to click the button on his name. So getting him there, I think he was the end of my cutoff. I think if he had gone earlier, I probably would have pivoted to a position, non QB positional player. So, and then having to start 3 wide receivers, I just off the get go, I actually came into this draft with the plan of let me attack that position, let me make sure that I get some studs there, and then I'll just I'll have my RB2 or even my RB1 kind of be my weak spot and try to fill that in after the fact. But I don't want to be left out in the cold with not elite wide receivers at that position.
Yeah, no, I was going to answer that too, because I know we've done a million drafts against each other, and I know you're a guy that's not afraid to go heavy RB, even when the popular thing is to fade running backs early. You don't have a problem going running back early, so I thought I was going to ask you that. Like this draft, I noticed you waited for running back, but I guess starting 3 receivers, and you can start up to 5 or 6 receivers in this format. So is that what it was?
Yeah, I think this year, I think I've adjusted my approach from that, just given the landscape. So I don't own any CMCs. I don't own really any Bijans. I own 0 Ecklers. I barely have any Barkley, and JTs because he's in the 3rd and 4th round. I have a couple of Derrick Henrys and Nick Chubbs, but that's only because once that my top 1 or 2 tiers of wide receiver runs out. I'm usually, pivoting, to running back at that position. But I love to get those elite wide receivers, as many as I can. So I really try to, this entire year, I've just been trying to grab 2 of those guys. And then once that position fills, then I'll pivot to a Pollard, Barkley, and positions like that. So I've kind of been, staying, with what I've been doing for the most part, throughout the 2023 draft season.
Guys, let's talk about James Cook, because everybody wants to. I mean, he is really one of those players where he's on the perfect offense. He has somewhat the perfect profile for that team, but I can't get there. And Adam and I have talked about this all year. I'm not saying Abib at 708 is a problem, or running back 19 or whatever it is. That's the other side of this conversation with Cook, is it's so late in drafts, but now you're probably seeing in Fantasy Pros or even Main Event, he's pushed up into round 5 or even round 4, and I just cannot. I don't think he's in the goal line packages at all. He's never had more than 9.5 touches per game in his career, Georgia and Buffalo. He was always sort of a part-time pass catching back role, and here are the Bills sort of pumping him up as a starter. I don't know.
Tell me how you really feel.
I know. I can't invest. I mean, in those rounds, you want to find running backs you think can go to the moon, and I think he can, but I'm definitely not overpaying.
I mean, I think you broke it down beautifully. I mean, the pros and the cons. I mean, without those cons, he'd be going in the 2nd round. But I think what it is, it's, maybe it's the allure. Maybe it's like this shiny mirage in the desert where he is in a high-powered offense, and we have been hearing he's been getting however many percentage of the first team reps, and yet Damian Harris has been out. But it is that mirage because, what I'm paying for is that whatever percentage it is, that percentage chance that he just explodes. And I think his ADP now has settled into a place where the rubber meets the road. It's okay, it's not a for sure thing, but man, that upside's there. So he's kind of he's in with those guys that kind of all have question marks. I mean, Madison, we all know that no one's really necessarily sold on his talent. We all are assuming he's the number 1, and he likely is. But, is he really an elite talent that can really take you there? And you can kind of go down the board of all the guys in that range as far as pros and cons. And I think really for me this year, when it kind of comes to some of those questionable situations,
you are on the clock.
What I've been doing is just saying, you know what, let me just try and go after the guy on the high-powered offense. Let me go after the guy who's going to be on a team that's going to score a lot of points, because I think when I've done that in the past, it started to pay off, and I think last year you saw it a lot. There were like the haves and the have-nots. You know, if you had players on teams that were the have-nots, the Pitts and the Drake Londons, didn't matter how good they were, they just weren't producing. And then if you had players on the halves, like a Gabe Davis, we all hated Gabe Davis, but when Gabe Davis was healthy, let's assume that he's just like a jag of all jags. He produces because he's just on a very, very good team. So I think that's kind of been my take and approach on it. He's definitely been a guy, in this format right here, obviously, I think I'm not just obviously trying to beat the guys in this league. I'm trying to beat the guys in all leagues. So, I lean maybe more upside than, towards the median of potential or projections.
Yeah,
Right.
no, that all makes sense. And the other thing too, because you were talking about, this year, you've been going more wide receiver heavy early, and even 3-4 years ago when you were winning, back-to-back tournaments at the FFPC, that it's changed so much.
Yep.
With the way that we're talking about. This is hard to look here because it's Superflex, but you're getting like running backs in the 4th round now that you used to have to take it the 1-2 turn of the draft just 2 years ago. So you're able to still get the running backs that you were targeting before, but you just, it's almost like the draft starts in the 3rd round now. Like you start your draft with 2 receivers, and now we're going to start drafting in the 3rd round.
Exactly. And it's just, it's, we've been fortunate, knock on wood, not a lot of, major injuries. But there's just been like all the running backs have just like, there's just been like a lot of off the field issues, when it comes to contracts. And so all those guys have dipped. I've had to stop drafting FFPC or the Fantasy Pros tournament because all my teams, like I was just like, just like grabbing Joe Mixon every time he was in the 5th and 6th.
Right.
And even in the 4th at times, I was like, I don't know. I just can't pass it up. I guess I'm just stuck. Like if he gets indicted or whatever, if he's arrested and not playing or suspended, like I'm going to be screwed. But I was like, this is just too good a value for a guy that even myself, like I told myself last year that this guy was like done, like physically, or not done, but just didn't look the part. But 5th, 6th round in a high-powered offense with no more Samaj P. Ryan and not much behind him, I'm going to stab on those guys. And there's been guys like that all throughout all offseason. Like, it's just only going to take us seeing one clip of J.K. Dobbins, one report of J.K. Dobbins saying, the head Harbaugh saying, this is our guy. We love to have, it's just going to take one of those clips, and then he's going to shoot back up drafts. These guys are definitely going at values, I think, this year.
You are on the clock.
Yeah, and
You are up. I've written down my prediction for your pick here in the 11th round.
You're probably
at,
right.
let's see, 128, right? 128. Let's see what happens. We have not discussed it. The amazing Kreskin, by the way. Oh, I'm wrong.
We have not discussed it.
All right. So we'll have to hang out for long enough for me to be able to reveal my prediction.
That's right. That's right.
Kadarius Toney, another polarizing player, and upside, you said. That's quintessentially.
Exactly. And if there's ever like a format for Kadarius Toney, have it be in best ball, right? Where I don't have to like manage, and guess like when he's going to go off. I've kind of had it in my mind. I was on McCole Hartman last year, like very, very like much so invested in season because I watched a few games and he was starting to kind of come on, and I was watching the routes that he was running, and I was watching how they were incorporating him, on end arounds and even in the red zone at times. And in my mind, like that's what Kadarius Toney's role is. And that role last year, I felt when McCole Hartman was healthy, was I thought very, very productive from a fantasy standpoint. So that's really all we need. And if he can do more, hopefully he can do more. So we'll see how many games he plays. But yeah, that was an upside pick for the most part.
Yeah, I think all those Chiefs, the whole Chiefs receiving core is a best ball receiving core because you don't know who's going to do what when. Probably nobody's getting 1,000 yards, but they're all going to get that 700-yard range and 5 or 6 touchdowns. It's just who's going to get them.
Yep.
And again, what you were talking about earlier about the receivers, the running backs and the injuries and stuff, I feel like over the last couple of days, we've gotten more answers at receiver, like the Seahawks with injuries, the Broncos with injuries, whereas all these running backs are just like you said, they're just sitting around. We're just waiting for an answer to a running back, in a running back position, an injury, something. And it feels like this might be the year. Like if there are no injuries this weekend,
You are up next.
this might be the year where it's just like, all right, it makes it so hard to pick between backfields and stuff like, it's running backs might even drop further,
It is.
Now
And
you are on the clock.
one approach I've kind of been taking in some drafts, like when it pans out, like especially if I get 2 or even 3 elite wide receivers, is then I try to like pound running backs, and I try to mix it up of guys who I feel like could potentially be workhorses. Guys like a Damian Pierce or a Rashad White, regardless of how I feel about them from like a talent standpoint. Maybe this is the guy that you were thinking here. Homer pick.
No, still doesn't have it. Unbelievable.
Yeah. But yeah, so that I think there are guys who like have the potential to be workhorse backs. So I think what I've been doing in like an FFPC format where you can start up to 4 running backs in like the Fantasy Pros and the main event tournaments is, what if I get lucky? What if I hit? It's notoriously the running back dead zone for a reason, because we have these preconceived notions of what's going to happen, and then we find out that the guy's not playing on third down, or it's an RBBC, or the guy gets hurt, et cetera, et cetera. But there's always, 1 or 2 guys that like really are able to stay healthy, really have, the potential for 250 plus touches. And if I can just have that just slotted in my lineup, I mean, I think that potentially could be an advantage over a guy like Terry McLaurin, pre-injury Terry McLaurin, where how much more upside does he really have? What he is. He's definitely a player that can help you out, but like, I just like, it's hard for me to click on a player like that. Like I can't see past, just Jahan Dotson. I can't see past Sam Howell. I can't see past Ron Rivera wanting to run the ball. I can't see past like them not scoring a lot of points. So it's just like, I've seen him for like the last 2 or 3 years. He's a great talent, but to me, he's capped. So let me go with the unknown and just like hope I luck out.
Yeah, I agree on Rivera. Like, it's just, what are we doing? We're sitting here waiting for the next coach of that team or owner. We have that now, I guess. But just like they fall into Eric Bieniemy, and then 1 week in training camp, he's taking shots at him.
Yep.
Like no. We don't really. What he's really saying deep down, I think, is we don't really care about winning. We're just going to do this my way.
Yep.
And so, he's a little bit aggressive. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry about that, but we're gonna run the ball on 2nd and 8 all year, and everybody's gonna love me because I'm this dignified former player, coach guy. Yeah. What a nightmare to be a fan of a team like that. Like, just the worst case scenario is your coach is a guy that just everybody loves him, but you're always gonna suck.
Yep.
And in fantasy, just it's hopeless. I like Dotson. I told Adam, we've talked about this before. He's the only guy on that team I have any joy in drafting.
Exactly.
And then McLaurin gets hurt. That helps a little bit, but they still have to have Howell work out. They hate Gibson. Robinson is bad.
Yeah.
I just what a team.
It's gonna be a painful watch. I mean, and I know like Bieniemy's coming over from KC, but he's a running back. He was a running backs coach. I'm sure he picked up quite a bit, and he may be like an excellent offensive coordinator. Maybe he's even a better head coach. But you got a defensive head coach. You got a guy who was a running back previously and who coached running backs previously. I don't know. Like outside of Jahan Dotson because of where he goes, and maybe some Cole Turner. I do like me some Cole Turner. I'm probably out.
I like Rodriguez, by the way, but he has to get a little bit lucky. Abib, a long time ago, I wrote down a name for your team, and that was in round 10. Here we are going to your pick. You're on deck in round 13. This player has not been chosen, so I'm a donkey because, like, why would anybody have picked this guy 3 rounds ago? It's the Deep End Invitational. But there is one more chance for you or Bradley, and after this, I'm giving up on the bid.
Oh man,
no pressure.
I'm not going to get it because I'm going completely off the wall here. So I'm likely not going to get the guy.
I thought it was going to be Juju to go with Mac Jones, but
he's gone.
He's gone. That's right.
Oh yeah. I want absolutely nothing to do with Juju.
I don't blame you.
Adam, who am I picking? Mingo. I love that, but again, like just
rip it up. Throw it away.
Throw it away.
What a mess. What a
I
mess.
can't show it until he gets picked.
He still hasn't been picked yet?
No, I wrote it down before you were even you were logging in.
I love it.
Right?
Abib, are you going to Vegas this year or what?
I'm actually going to be in Vegas the week before all the main event draft. Yeah, I'm going for one of my good longtime home leagues, friends and family league. I've been drafting this league since college, so close to 20 years now. And indeed, it's actually a Superflex league. It's almost the exact same format. So like that to me, like Superflex to me is my standard. Like this is like what I'm used to drafting.
Yeah.
So like I kind of feel comfortable like going with the flow, like seeing what everyone's doing, and then kind of coordinating, not getting too excited about QBs jumping off the board and being able to pivot. You don't have to start a quarterback in your Superflex, especially in best ball. It's nice. You get a guy that produces 15 points on the bench, like that can hold you over for a week or two. So, you have to feel pressure, I think, to like go two quarterbacks early in Superflex. I like where I was because I felt like I could get what I feel like is an elite QB in Burrow, and then also get potentially an elite wide receiver. So I think I was kind of positioned for that.
Were you sold on QB? We're gonna kind of reverse engineer this.
Yeah.
Were you definitely doing QB round one or no matter what? Like let's say Herbert and Burrow and Fields all go in front of you. Were you going Lawrence or another?
No, after Burrow, I would have let Fields go. I actually would have let Fields go. Yeah, I kind of like the upside, but honestly, like in my mind, I'm like, why draft Fields when I can draft Daniel Jones?
Right.
I kind of like equate them, very similar. So it's been hard for me to click on the Fields button this year. It was nice to be in on them last year, but this year I'm like, I think I'll jump off the train.
That's right.
If I may, you say Superflex is your standard. Mm-hmm. What is like the most common mistake people make in Superflex? Like more and more people are coming over.
Yeah.
And so I was in the Monday night draft. I'm like, these are experts too.
Yeah.
I know I'm not taking two in the first two rounds. That much I know. Yeah. And then I got stuck. Like it just was not happening for me in the 6 slot that night. So if it's not
or tonight.
Yeah, right. Well, she didn't even come in the room. But if loading up on quarterbacks too early isn't the biggest mistake or easiest mistake Superflex drafters make, what is it?
I think so. If you're in like a home league and you've drafted in that league multiple years, the biggest mistake is not understanding or not appreciating how early or when QBs get drafted.
You are on the clock.
The easiest thing that you can do is just go back to like last 2 or 3 years and just average how many QBs go in the first 3 rounds, how many QBs go in the first 5 rounds, how many QBs go in the first 7 rounds, and that you can lay out an easy draft plan based off of that because you'll kind of have an idea of, okay, this guy will be available to me. So if you want to kind of toy with taking Jefferson and saying, right, okay, based off of like prior years, I'll be able to get a Herbert. Or Justin Fields, you can play that, and I think that adds some comfort level.
Okay.
If you're just kind of just drafting like in a league like this where you're not familiar with anyone, I'm gonna make.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're up. It's the 5th opportunity. Yeah. I did not actually rip it. Come on, Abib, my man. 5th round in a row. I am such a boob at this. I can't believe this player. I recommended it for you in round 10, and now it's round 14, and nobody has picked him at all.
You're not gonna like it soon either.
Van Jefferson, let's go. Let's go.
I love your advice and your insight on this. I was listening, but I can't resist sort of performing here. And again, nobody wants the guy I thought he would take.
I was going to take Jeff Wilson. I don't know if that was a guy, but then I just thought to myself,
who?
Jeff Wilson. Yeah, because I only had 3 running backs. They're not very strong running backs, but again, I'm fine like with that being a weakness. Like getting back to your earlier question, like I think when you draft in Superflex, you have to understand, unless you just like are in a league where, you're able to take advantage of a lot of people, or you're in a league and you just kind of hit the nuts, everything just falls perfectly to you. The majority of the time, you have to understand you're going to have a weakness somewhere.
Yes.
So I think the number one mistake that people make is say I was at the back end, and all these quarterbacks go, and I'm thinking, well, if I grab quarterback and then I allow someone, like a Tyreek Hill to fall to the guy who, to the guy who drafted Joe Burrow or Herbert or even Lamar Jackson, well, now I've lost twice. I don't have an elite QB. and then whatever your second round, ideally it's someone who's elite. But now the guys at the other end of the draft have 2 elite players, and they're going to come around in the third round and get a player that's better as well. So I really think you have to try to find some multiple positions to win at. So if you can't win at the QB position, try to win it at another position, especially if it's a position of scarcity. I love that Kelsey went early. To me, I think that was a smart pick. I would have probably taken him over Burrow, sure, because I would have won ideally that tight end position.
I like Andrews more than Kelsey this year, but I know I don't have to pay as much. Mm-hmm. I picked him on Monday at 207, and it still seemed early based on what happened after. But my man John Daigle picked him at 1. Oh, Mike Leone to the rescue at 14-10.
Tyler Boyd.
I'm relieved this player is not dead. I thought he was dead, but he's at 14-10. Tyler
he might
Boyd.
Be dead. He might be dead.
Yeah. So so I don't do a lot of draft best balls, very few. But I'm also, and this is just kind of me going against the grain, me just ignoring science and all things logic.
You're a doctor.
I don't believe in stacking just a stack.
I love it.
I just, I don't if I feel like Jonathan Mingo and Van Jefferson are going to outscore Tyler Boyd, I'm just going to take those guys. And I forgot that I drafted Joe Burrow. I forgot that I drafted Kenny Pickett. I have no clue.
Yeah,
they're younger. I mean, second year breakout, you want rookies. I mean, I respect that too. You want the upside, especially later in the year, the playoff weeks, where you can get paid.
We got a question here in the chat from Cody. Were you considering Richardson at all at the 3-4 turn there? Or sorry, the 2-3, the 2. Well, you're not at the 2-3 turn. Anyways, the second or third round. The second or third round, right? Were you considering?
No.
Because you had mentioned Fields last year and the upside of the rushing, and were you considering him at all there?
Yeah, no. In this format, I think it being you have to start 3 wide receivers, you have to start 3 wide receivers. To me, that's such an important position. That's almost as important as a quarterback position to me. To not get an elite guy there. If I don't have a guy that can just really giving me higher end wide receiver ones, I think I'm just gonna be at a major disadvantage. The only time I ever go 2 QBs back to back in a super flex is if it's 2 elite guys, which rarely happens. Otherwise, I just the margin, the difference between AR and some of the other guys that I could have gotten in the third round, I think is pretty small.
I want to just continue on here. This is I haven't talked to you in a year, Abib, so I got I really want to. But this game theory stuff is so important because I think we're living in an age too where 90% of the drafts, I made that number up, 90% of the drafts that people do are these underdog drafts where all we care about is schedule and correlation. And then you get a draft like this where you have to have player takes and actual strategy of what, like you said, passing on certain players. You have to take guys so that they don't get 2 elite players at a position like old school drafting where you had to actually be right about picks. And that's where I love the high stakes world. And I love drafts like this and all the game theory that you're talking about where listen, man, super flex, tier based drafting. I feel like that goes out the window for the entire offseason because we're worried about schedules and making sure we don't have enough, I'm at 30% of this guy. I'm only at 15% of this guy. So it's this type of drafting, this is almost like the intro to this is going to be high stakes. You have to be right about your actual player picks and your actual team build.
Absolutely. I'm a big proponent of Superflex. I feel like it's it really should be the industry standard when it comes to your basic league format. If you feel like you're in a competitive league, and everybody's sharp, everybody, kind of comes to the draft prep, at least 90%. There's always, 1 or 2 guys, obviously, who are more entertainment. But if you're in a really strong league, you guys just feel like the league is kind of plateaued. Everyone's just, it's hard to kind of find an advantage. Add a super flex.
Yes.
It changes the dynamic. You can approach it in so many ways. And then you make it tight end premium, and that's a whole nother level. But at the super flex position, I mean, you can do so much with it, and it makes in-season management, in-season trading, it just makes it so much more fun.
Right.
100%.
You got your Jeff Wilson in round 15. I'm not here to judge which of Adam and me are more entertainment versus substance.
If you don't know who it is, it's you. If you don't know who it is.
Don't know, you don't know. Abib, what a thrill and an honor to have you in tonight. Thank you for joining us on the show and playing in this tournament. And I guess we won't see you in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks, but we'll definitely connect soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys. Enjoy the rest
Thanks
of the night.
so much, man.
Our pleasure.
Oh,
Abib
how great was
Agbetoba.
that? Great stuff.
Tyler Boyd. No?
No,
I mean, I don't like Tyler Boyd.
He gave you an honest answer. He's like, I'm not looking
forgot.
I don't do best ball. I'm not stacking. I'm not stacking.
Is that my fault for
No.
pressing that? I thought it was a good bit, like 5 rounds. I had the paper for 5 rounds, but I am not questioning his team. In fact, I would not even bet even money that I finish ahead of him. So I'm not saying that at all. I just thought it was funny to talk about. Okay, Adam, well, it's been a fun week.
What a week. I mean, 4 nights, 4 drafts. Hey, 48 people, 48 drafts. It looks like Kate might be in here now. We got back-to-back picks.
Yes.
Keelan and Hyatt. I love that. So 48 of 48 drafters made it. I love that.
If she thinks taking Aidan O'Connell and Malik Cunningham is unique, she's got another thing coming.
No, not in this format.
Somebody in this conversation got sniped on Clayton Tune.
That's right. That's right. I was just going to say, I wonder where Austin Eckler went tonight because I was super happy about where I got him, and she actually got him autoed to her in the middle of the second. He might have fallen over.
207. Yeah.
But yeah, no, great. Thanks again. Thanks for everybody who did this. This was so much fun, and we're going to do it every year. Maybe we'll add some leagues next year, but the feedback has been incredible. The guests,
next year we add relegation.
Oh, thank you. Finally.
Right. Let's add one more league, but if you're but see, that changes how you draft because nobody in these is drafting to avoid last. You're drafting to win.
Listen,
playing
just,
for upset.
That's what I got to say about that. Okay. That's like relegation.
So short.
Relegation coming to a league near you. Okay.
You waited an hour for that. That was worth it.
I love it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching and listening. Mike and Adam, what's the plan next week?
Oof, well, I'm in Kentucky all weekend. I haven't said that 12 times a night. And then I'm back Tuesday. I don't know. I mean, what we got to do a draft or something, right? Come on.
We should. I'll be in Washington this weekend myself. Here we are at the Deep End. I hope you've enjoyed the different displays each night. Tonight was a Seahawks night, so my son got here and put the Canisius helmet in front of the Seahawks helmet.
Oh.
So, it's his time to shine. Jim Zorn gamer back there. Jim Zorn practice gamer.
Are they coming to Rochester? Do we know yet?
The Seahawks?
No. Canisius.
I don't know.
We got to find out. Have Julius's people call my people.
I love that Seahawk helmet. I've had that helmet for 40 years.
Wow.
This guy, look at this thing. Sears bought.
I was going to say, look at
this thing.
Yeah. That would not take Cortez Kennedy. I'll tell you.
I used to wear this. I wore this at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1980.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
Who got
walked around wearing this thing.
Who was getting inducted with that helmet on?
Nobody. I mean, I don't know, like Jim Brown or somebody, but no. I mean, I love that team, that helmet. My mom is left-handed. So here was the one team that did 2 things that agree with me. One was have a quarterback throwing lefty, which seems so hard. Ever tried it?
It's ridiculous.
So hard.
Yeah.
So hard. And the other is they ran fake field goals and fake punts, and nobody else had any courage to do that. Like the Bills had Chuck Knox, who was super boring. He was like from the war or something, the military, and let's just run up the middle on every play. Here's Seattle over here in a dome, which is better, of course, right? Like you're watching sports and you're not getting snowed on. Of course, it's better.
Yeah.
And they got a lefty quarterback, and they're running fakes. Like that was my team.
Listen, and you've been wanting to pass ever since. The run and shoot.
No field goals, no punts, no stupid stuff, no run up the middle. Just what is this? Why are we wasting our time?
Right.
Again, Thank you, Adam. Thanks, everybody, for being with us tonight and this week in the Deep End. Mike Schopp, Adam Krautwurst. See you next time on the Deep End.
See you guys.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.